Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar that is called Being an Accountable Coach. And as I've got said in the little subtext there, this is the stuff of lend greater credibility to your work and set the tone for your client's participation. Now, there's an awful lot in that sentence that is packed in, and I can't wait to sort of show all of it. But right off the bat, I want to address what it might be the elephant in the room, that, being an accountable coach. I talked to Morgan when I sort of pitched her, like, here's what I'm thinking for the next one about 2 months ago. And she's like, I'm not so sure. And I suspect a lot of our coaches, they're pretty accountable already. Yeah, dude, I already keep my promises. I don't need sort of to be lectured about, keeping my word and having integrity. And that's fair. That's a fair concern, because if we look at what does accountability even mean for a coach, a very understandable and very typical first pass knee-jerk reaction would be the stuff of, well, that's just equivalent to having baseline integrity, showing up on time, following through reliably, doing what you said you were going to do, coming prepared, basically not being a schmo when it comes to your word and actually following through and being good about that. And that I could not fill an hour-long webinar on. You'd all be bored, and it would just feel like, again, a sort of lot of wagging in the finger. So to me, what's a lot more interesting is, let's get into, think about what is being an accountable coach, like capital A, capital C. We might even slap on the TM because it's not trademarked, but this is an idea, a distinction that I really want to flesh out and sort of explore and get deep into as a way of being that is powerful and useful beyond just the pedestrian stuff. So being an accountable coach, I would define as having sort of three pillars. And one, yes, is the thing you would expect right off the bat. That whole impeccable integrity thing and just really being rock solid, reliable, accountable for doing what you said you would. But beyond that, we can add a few more things. The next one up, that impeccable integrity becomes sort of a foundation for what you can do beyond that, which is being accountable for the process. And that's a little abstract, but I can't wait to sort of get your mind thinking about what it is to have a process that you could be accountable to at all. And the next one is one that everyone understands very well, which is accountable for the results, which is really at the sort of apex of that pyramid that everyone's really going forward. That's the whole reason we're in the business, to get results for our clients or help them to get those results and make them. And being accountable at that level is something truly powerful indeed, way better than just merely showing up on time every time. So we're going to go through these three things. We're going to start at that foundation, that base of impeccable integrity. So there are certain things that are very acceptable, very business as usual in, shall we say, normal life. Everybody does it, and we all let it slide. Stuff of being 2 minutes late, not exactly doing what you said you would do. Oh, sorry about that. I'll get that to you next Tuesday. And letting slide even certain promises or agreements. Oh, yeah, we did say we were going to do that once a month, and it just kind of fell out. Oh, you cool? We cool? We all cool? Okay, we're cool. Everyone's being cool. Now, that's okay. But what's interesting, what's powerful, is if we scratch out that idea that these things are acceptable and instead relate to them as a hard fail. If you're someone who is dedicated and committed to being an accountable coach, DM, not TM'd. When you relate to these things as a hard fail, that's really puts you in rarefied air, because that's rare. Everyone just kind of lets certain things slide and we're all cool. No one's trying to be militant about this or turn anyone else off or set themselves up to fail and feel like a schmo. But if you relate to that, your word matters so much that you are going to be bringing integrity to all of it, it puts you in a rarefied league. And it's cool to feel good about and look good, like, oh, look at how impeccable my integrity is. But better than that is what it does. It sets the tone for your clients. The particular tone it sets is, this is worth taking seriously. I'm taking this seriously, and they can't help but by osmosis get the same feeling of like, oh, I should rise to the occasion. And taking coaching seriously is powerful because of sort of a pithy quip that I was acquainted with when I was being coached. Treat this program as though your life depends on it. Now, literally, that sounds like you're gonna die if you don't get it right. But if you drill down into that, again, first reaction instinct of that interpretation of that phrase, treat this as though your life counts on it. Well, it does. The quality of life, who you know yourself as, the circumstances in which you're trafficking, that is your life. And it does for many, all hopefully kind of close to it, coaching programs rely upon getting and showing up for powerfully in that program and have your life be elevated for it. Treat this as your life. is worth it, that impeccable integrity sets the tone that this is worth taking seriously. You can say it with a straight face. So defining your impeccable integrity is kind of an interesting exercise that, again, almost no one asterisk does. It's the stuff of making a promise to yourself, or promises, a set of like, this is how I operate, and then advertise it freely. I'm not talking about, placing ads for it, but like actually telling the story, sharing it. Let your clients know. You set those expectations with your clients, and then the coup de grace is you welcome them to call you out. You just say, this is how I operate, and it's clear. And if you ever see me not being that, by all means, you can say, hey, what's up? It's a sort of right to demand satisfaction is very powerful. And we have an example for this. Hopefully, y'all have seen it, but let me pop it up just in case. Our own CoachAccountable Terms of Awesome is sort of an example of this. We're not quite in the same business of coaching people directly, but we too have taken the time to, document. These are largely an account of how we do business since we started. And we figure we may as well publicly document these processes. If you've never read these, give them a look. They're kind of a hoot, but they basically just say, here's how we operate. Here's how we can expect. It is our proud expression of how we operate with integrity with everyone we do business with. What's yours? It might be something that's fun and interesting to play with and show off and be loud and proud about how you already do things. If it's already how you do things, you may as well get credit by documenting them publicly and letting people know that this is the deal. Meanwhile, back in here, we've got this idea of executing on that impeccable integrity. And this really comes down to, again, some sort of like really simple techniques that allow you to show up easily and make good on your word and not be a schmo. These are very simple, basic functionality that CoachAccountable has. Time the reminders for yourself. That keeps you always on time and showing up like a pro. Coach Actions, the newly released feature that allow you to make promises to your clients with confidence that, yes, I will do this for you by such and such a date, and put those into existence. The usual machinations of reminders to help you get there done. Reviewing their progress allows you to sort of take the time to show up really powerfully and be in their world and be well prepared when you're coming onto any class. These are little simple pedestrian things that are made possible by the system itself that really keep you on the ball and really keep you up on doing what you said you would do. Let's now shift gears to talk about accountable for the process. Like I said at the top, process is kind of an abstract thing, right? Process. What's your process? What process are we talking about? The baseline table stakes for a coach, especially one just getting started, is, well, my process is we have our sessions. And yeah, that's what we do. It's coaching. We have coaching sessions and that's it. What are you talking about? What process is there to speak of? Well, this can get really interesting again to sort of go beyond the sort of baseline default of what it is to have coaching conversations. Most of the training that people get is all about just knocking it out within those sessions itself, and everything else is sort of undefined. And because it's not really talked about, it's not really trained about, it's not really related to as an important part of the mix. But if you relate to it as an important part of the mix, you can make a process and describe a process that is clear and specific. Here's what you get. Here's what's going to happen. Here's when. Here's at what schedule. This is what you can expect when working with me. This process can be highly desirable because, again, it's the sort of description of some sort of compelling experience of the service that they're going to get, what they can expect, and it feels like they're handled and taken care of and paid attention to, and all these other wonderful traits that your process can sort of entail. And then finally, you can design a process that is objectively adhered to. In other words, something that any neutral arbiter can say, because it's specific, yeah, you did, or yeah, you didn't adhere to that process. Now, there are certain building blocks for that process accountability that, again, are sort of your ability to sort of mix and match and choose and design your own thing. And I'll map out a couple to give you sort of some ideas about what it is to design a process that is highly accountable. One is having simply timely and prepared sessions. Again, it's so basic as to be table stakes, but you can truly enumerate some of the properties of this. The reminders for both parties help both parties always show up on time. It works like clockwork. Maybe you have a policy of you call them rather than risking them calling you, because you always want to make sure that the call happens and it happens timely, and you don't want to throw certain things to chance. Maybe readily accessible Zoom links that, again, get texted to the person 1 minute before and make it dead simple for everyone to show up prepared and on time. Nothing like, oh, I couldn't find the link, or I forgot what your number was and something happened. And then again, that whole coming well prepared, thanks to your ability to do a records review, you can say always like, I will be well prepared in your world and ready to hit the ground running, because you know. Another sort of area of building blocks for that process accountability are regular and guaranteed sessions. Again, Coach Accountable has some nice tools to make that really easy. It's dead simple to schedule a sequence of appointments with someone. So if you're going to say like, hey, for the next 3 months, we're going to have a weekly session. We're just going to say Tuesdays at 12 and then schedule all 12 of them and you're done. The engagement allocation allows everyone to sort of keep on the same page about how many appointments have you had? How many do you still have coming to you? We know exactly what's going on. And then finally, the appointment schedule nudges, again, help keep things in motion in case you leave it up to your clients to schedule with you whenever they feel like it. The system will say something like, for example, it's been 14 days since the last session and there's nothing on the calendar. Let's notify the coach or the client or both to make sure that the wheels keep spinning and nothing peters out accidentally. Our next building block that we have is the ability to give feedback and support. I love the phrase benevolent stalking time. That's where you can, again, sort of as coach, look in on their file. What's done, what's not? How are their metrics hanging out or hammering out as time goes on since you last talked to them? This is a way for you to sort of be in their world and sort of give a nice little nudge of encouragement or reminder, hey, this is important, don't let it slide because we talked. The power of some other human being on the other line, caring about what you're doing or not doing, is incredibly motivating, and you get to leverage that psychological power to help people be spurned on to further greatness according to what you've co-created as great. Happiness reports are a wonderful way to trigger this. Perhaps you have a ritual called every Thursday at 2 o'clock. The system will send you a happiness report on all your active clients, allowing you to very easily from that happiness report add comments to whatever you want. Maybe your ritual on a Thursday afternoon to spend an hour or two doling out a little bit of love, a little bit of encouragement for folks on the opposite side of the week when you haven't talked to them, but again, spurring them on. Timely and focused commentary, again, allows you to do this in really on-point ways about maybe a worksheet assignment that they did or how things are going with their metric, either wins or falling behinds or actions that have gotten done. Yay, good job. Or hey, the deadline has slipped. Hey, don't forget, this is important to you. The newly added worksheet answer comments gives another sort of very highly focused way to do this in a very elegant way that is sort of I've talked all about in the blog post announcing that last week. Another building block for that process of accountability is having a routine, something for them to consume and or do, probably better even to do. You can send off an inspirational quote that pertains to the line of coaching that you're doing. You can have them get a video or an article to read. You can give them a little assignment that gives them the opportunity to do active reflection on any of those above things. All of these things, as well as a regular check-in to sort of track their progress, measure their numbers, to keep up with their KPIs. All these little building blocks allow you to have them get a little more participation that's not just the sessions themselves, but has them be like, ooh, there's a process where it's nurtured and supported, not just when I'm talking to coach. Courses will allow you to manage all this delivery in automated fashion. For anyone who's going into your programs, you can sort of set in motion a course that's been designed to do these things at regular timed intervals, and it's just handled. So on the surface, this whole being accountable for the process is just your way of declaring, like, here's what I promise you'll get and what you can expect when we are working together. You get to pick and choose, again, from these building blocks, whatever actually suits your style and the kind of clientele that you serve. It might be for if you're working with a bunch of busy execs that they don't want that inspirational quote, but maybe they do. You can kind of tailor it to whatever is suitable and appropriate. You can also make a variance of what people can expect according to service level. Maybe you do the whole classic bronze, silver, gold plans where they get more of your time, more of your attention, more materials when they go up to higher levels, but people can kind of adjust themselves and put themselves wherever they want. And you can, again, give options so that you can meet your clients at exactly where they're at and what they're interested in. So now let's talk accountable for the results. So accountable for the results. At a baseline, the sort of declaration that the coaching industry generally makes to its clientele is, well, you bring you and we'll tailor it all to you. We'll see where it goes. We'll meet you where you're at. Now, ostensibly, this is luxurious. This is a sort of very tailor-made, custom-made, fit the client exactly where they're at service. And that's okay. But I want to get a little more interested in, well, what else could be? And in order to do that, I have to politely, make a sort of indictment of this idea of this being ostensibly luxurious, and view it through a more cynical lens that makes something new possible, called it actually might be kind of lazy for its lack of specificity. It actually might have a certain, like, hey, come on over and we'll see what you got and we'll see what we can do. Now, there's no accountability implied by this. And to, shall we say, a savvy consumer, anyone who's considering doing business with you and parting with their hard-earned dollars for the results that you're promising or not promising, the no accountability implied has the effect of kind of zero accountability perceived. Maybe it's there somewhere else on the fringe, but if you kind of have it all be up to chance and guesswork and the general vibe of what you're doing, that might not look as impressive as you might hope that it would. And so this is an opportunity for us to do better. So better than that is to define, actually describe, what are some common outcomes? It's a matter of taking some time to anchor the expectations in some real and even objectively measurable terms. Now, there's some ways to do this, some approaches that to give you some ideas of what it is to make this surface this as a clear thing. One of them is to enumerate some of the common before and after states, sort of a fancy word to make a list. Hey, if you're starting here, we can reliably get someone to this other place that is desirable in about 6 months or a year or whatever. Like, give a sort of sense of like some common case studies of what that looks like to work with your program and your methodology and what kind of things can be expected. Another one that I'm rather fond of is defining a 5-point scale and describe the results on that. Now, we all know the 5-point scales, these sort of garbage things where nobody knows what anything actually means on those scales. Not talking about that. I'm talking about doing way better. And we gave an example of this in our webinar on pitching prospects and with clients, where you sort of define, like, well, on a 5-point scale, here's what's terrible and here's what's great. And people can pretty reliably, subjective as it is, place themselves on that scale. And then you can then talk in terms of like, we raise people, we can bring a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to a 4, things like that. Accountable for the results. So the best thing that you can do in this world is offering a results guarantee. Is anyone made uncomfortable with that idea? I suspect possibly, and I'm good with that because it's up to them, right? Well, your saving grace, your ace in the hole for giving any sort of guarantee is something that is quite magical and powerful. It's contingent upon full participation. In other words, this program works, but only if you show up. We all know that that's the point, that is the case in pretty much every kind of coaching. So you make it contingent upon full participation. Now, usually that's impossible to tell. All right, did you show up? Did you participate? But we have the luxury of using CoachAccountable, which is this sort of hub for documenting all the things. This is known. If you look and if they're showing up for things, there's a record of it. If they're late to things or late to getting things done, or things are a sea of incompletions, that's obvious to both parties too. And so that's what makes that results guarantee something that you can possibly plausibly do with integrity, and not just, putting yourself at great risk, called like, get money back, but whatever you do, you can totally force my hand. Not talking about that. It's contingent upon full responsibility, full participation. So defining this results guarantee, well, you can make it, there's a couple of attributes that it has to have. You make it specific. You make it something that's measurable. You make it something that's timed, and you make a clear protocol for invoking. All of these things give a certain comfort and understanding of what they're getting in advance, and give a guarantee a certain objectiveness and clarity around it. When you're executing on, and we'll see an example of that shortly. When you're executing on a results guarantee, again, you're kind of taking it upon yourself as coach. Look, I'm responsible that you get some results for this. And you're not flying blind happily, because again, you can do things that are a routine review. Either you doing it solo, looking at their file, looking at their metrics, looking at their accomplishments so far, or join. Perhaps it's part of the rituals of what you do on a session, either most of your sessions or maybe something like a quarterly review. That routine review can be triggered by a happenings report, again, that sort of fires off on whatever cadence you want. Maybe it's a weekly thing, maybe it's a monthly thing, maybe it's a quarterly thing. And it tells you like, hey, it's time to do the review for these people. And that trigger helps you maintain that integrity that we talked about earlier, called you'll never forget. The system is pinging you at the exact right cadence because you've set in motion for it to do so. Now, again, when you do that review, is it a sea of green or a field of red? Metrics also tell no lies in terms of the raw hard numbers, unless they're falsifying data, which probably not the thing, but yeah. Metrics tell no lies, but they can tell great stories. If you, again, sort of advise them or built into your process that not only do they report the number, but they report the comment behind it, telling some of the story of what's working and what's not. This is wonderful for you to, again, have actionable insights so that you can, again, sort of manage the execution of results actually happening that make that guarantee more possible, more feasible. Now, when it comes to offering a results guarantee, one question and concern you might have is, well, what about abuse or deception? Well, it has been estimated that about 4% of the human population are sociopaths. And as Morgan rightly, probably, I think, pointed out to me, the Venn diagram between sociopaths and people self-aware enough to undertake being coached, really narrow indeed. So I want to give you some sort of hope and comfort. If you're going to offer a results guarantee, please don't cripple your entire offering to your entire client base in order to hedge against the unlikely. The power you gain by sort of putting forth a bold and compelling offer to the masses of your clients so very outweighs even if one or two of them be like, man, you can't make me, I just marked incomplete even though I didn't do it, this program didn't work. You might have one of those, but what do you gain for the whole rest of the people who take to your work for that? Case in point, again, is that whole Terms of Awesome that CoachAccountable has. We have never been burned by proudly saying this is how we operate. We've never had a moment where we couldn't rise to the occasion called maybe we didn't feel like being awesome with someone as we publicly described we would be awesome with people. We just do it anyway, and it's cool. No one has ever said they weren't awesome enough, and wow. We've never had our reputations tarnished for it, and it's only been a great thing to put in the space. So again, I kind of invite you to play with and dance with the idea of like, what might be your terms of awesome? What awesome things do you just already do as a course of your natural way of being that you could just write up and proudly say, this is what it's like to work with me. So there we have it. Being an accountable coach is those three pillars. We start with impeccable integrity, which is everyone kind of expects is what it means, but then we build onto it with other things that give even more power and compellingness to the way we operate and the way we share what we operate. And speaking of that sharing, once you design these things, once you kind of come up with your own definition of what it is to be accountable in these three different ways, there is to advertise. And I'm not talking about placing ads on anywhere, but I mean, write up and actually share with the world how you do it. You can make a description of your process, make it crystal clear what it's like to work with you. You can make a description of those typical results that people can get, those before and after cases that are truly representative of the results you've gotten in the past. And you can have a policy of your results guarantee. Heck, you could even cook up a nice little agreement that people actually will sign for and post it proudly. The thing of, here's what you can expect from me. Here's what I expect for you for full participation. Here's the guarantee that entails from us both showing up as agreed to in this thing. Sign here on the dotted line, press hard, third copy is yours. Not literally, of course, this is all digital, but boy, it works in a spiffy. Post that as like, hey, if you may be wondering what you get when you work with me. Here's the agreement we have all of our customers sign and agree to, and we mutually agree to as part of the onset of working. Is this interesting? Here's where you can sign up. So let's have sort of a sample of all this, because I've thrown out a lot of ideas, and to sort of anchor your own creative juices and mojo in how to apply these things and how to do it on your own. Cooked up a little standalone web page that we have here at this URL. Morgan, if you want to put that into the chat, you guys can follow along. We don't have time to go through all of this, but I want you to consider that this sample copy shows sort of a program that outlines those ideas of the process and the guarantee. Right now, off the bat, you can see there's some creativity of, like, again, splitting it out by service levels in terms of what people get and what they can expect. And then we clearly enumerate what you get. You get these things, and if you read this through, it takes so much of the guesswork out of it. It takes so much of any sort of fear of, like, is this woo, will this work? And really pulls back the curtain on the process of what people get and how it works and how it operates. And you've got a lot of potential to, just by shining a light on the very things you already do, make it compelling and powerful. Similarly, we play with the results of it. Here's an example of, operating on some of those 5-point scales. I picked 5, it's kind of arbitrary. Maybe you've got others, but you basically, like it says here, these are subjective, but they're specific enough to accurately describe the experiences of the people we work with. What would your 5-point scale work with? How do people move up? These are all sort of, again, just frameworks for you to sort of articulate in much more clearer terms than is often done what it is you do and how it is you operate. A little bit of a guarantee also kind of goes into this. Here's again some sort of sample copy or sample template, sort of verbiage about how it operates. And we define specifically fully participation. There's a clear protocol. Hey, if you'd like to drop out, whatever the reason, let your coach know, show your work, and you'll be refunded. Simple as that. Not a lot of words that need to be written, but having some words rather than no words at all on the topic goes an awful long way to dispelling mystery, mystique, and getting rid of that sense of someone's taking a risk and giving them confidence to say yes to what it is you're offering. So let's map this all out. As I often like to do, a nice little drawing to sort of anchor your understanding of all these things and kind of put them together in a way that makes sense. So being an accountable coach, hopefully that's appealing. Hopefully the idea of rising accountability, going up in this direction, is what we're looking for. And to really set the stage for the idea of rising accountability, we have to make this little line here, which is our baseline integrity. We're not going to spend too much, but let's go a little bit south of that to see there are some things that are just shy of baseline integrity, minor infractions like showing up 2 minutes late or tasks that are late or incomplete. Furthermore, outright failure to deliver on promises, and worst of all, straight up lying. Now, as we all know, these more minor things, that's business as usual, but there's a lot of sloppiness that still gets a pass in this world, which means you can really clean up and excel by not trafficking in said sloppiness. Further down, please leave the profession. You're making us all look bad. Just stop it. Anyway, now that we know what the whole baseline integrity is and what it looks to fall short of that, let's see what it looks like to excel beyond it. And again, our foundation is impeccable integrity. Impeccable integrity looks like a couple of things, and one of them is just simple as always being on time. Now, CoachAccountable has your back and the back of your clients with its whole system of appointment scheduling and timely reminders that fire off from it. Moving up a little further, always prepared. And CoachAccountable's got your back. You can review the stream, what's new, what's happening, what's happened since we last talked, and your clients themselves can fill out worksheets. Maybe you have a pre-appointment worksheet that allows them to be like, oh yeah, this is happening in 24 hours, and get their head on straight and figure out their last bits of action and declare what they want to get out of this. Moving up a little further, always following through. Again, it's that integrity of like, whatever I say I'm going to do, I always say it's going to be by a certain time, and it gets done. And then again, the actions now are there for both coach and client to make sure that those little promises get made and effortlessly with integrity. Beyond that integrity, we got our next one up, which is process accountability. And this is the stuff of like keeping true to a process. What process? Well, that's up to you to create, but you can do so well by creating it as more than we have calls. We add in some things, and then we can, have things called like, well, in addition to the calls, you'll get session notes, on a silver platter, or a written account of your key takeaways, or things like a happenings report can also be there to sort of deliver a report of what's going on, or maybe deliver to you as coach that reminder to sort of go in and offer constructive feedback at a routine cadence. Not just any process, though. We can have a luxurious process. We can kind of think about what is higher levels of service and what kind of great things we can offer with that. And then that luxurious process, there is something like maybe you get mini lessons automatically delivered every other week or something like that, or some other like bits of value and content and opportunities to participate and traffic in and play with and reflect on all the good things you're teaching people, and comments on their progress. Even when it's not during the session, you're just kind of, again, that figure who's always there rooting for them in the distance, and they know that they're supported and what they do and their following through matters to someone else who's in their corner. And then finally, our third piece is the results integrity accountability. The first one is being specific about those results, taking a little time to make an earnest, honest, evidence-based account of these are the kind of things that typically happen with people that I work with, and proudly saying that's about what you can expect. And up there is a guarantee of those results. Metrics are there to sort of, again, bring metrics, and frankly, all those other things below it, to sort of make a foundation to bring that sort of visibility and accountability to, are the results happening? There's an objective tangibility to how things are unfolding. And that guarantee results, of course, comes with this little asterisk, which is contingent upon full participation. These sort of three categories, again, you've got at the bottom, your base for this is impeccable integrity, because if you don't have that, none of these things could be taken seriously or true. The tone is not set for this matters and the seriousness worth taking. But when you have that impeccable integrity that is, again, aided by your own commitment, as well as some, frankly, brain augmenting tools of software to keep you on track and reminded timely. Add a dash of process accountability that, again, sort of gives some structure and form to what it is you do and what it is people can expect when working with you. That really leads to that apex of the results accountability that people can expect. So let's bring it all together. In summary, being an accountable coach, you got these three things of impeccable integrity, accountable for the process, and accountable for the results. Take your time to design your definition of what it is to operate with integrity as you do with all your clients. Take some time to design and advertise a process that is compelling beyond just, oh, we have calls. Make it something specific and measurable that people can appreciate, like, wow, this is what I get. Take some time to design and advertise the expected results. And to help you with all this, CoachAccountable is there to make you reliably deliver on the whole kit and caboodle. And there you have it. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Being an Accountable Coach, and I'm so glad you're here. And we will now open the floor to questions. Brad McDonald asks, can you please give some insight into how many clients a CA coach can coach because of all the automation and tools? Just curious. As is always the case, your mileage may vary. But what I like to say is, because of its ability to keep all the things straight and make it crystal clear what's happening with a person, you no longer have bandwidth limitations of how many people you can kind of care for and track. The thing I've loved to say, and I recognize this for myself when I was beta testing 2.0 way back in the day, is you always set yourself a reminder 10 minutes before your session. And it doesn't matter if you haven't thought about that person at all in the last week, in the last month since you talked to them. You quickly review their client page. You quickly review whatever you typed up for your session notes last time, and you're good to go. The net result, building to the ultimate answer to your question, Brad, is that if you have, say, hour-long sessions with people once a month, let's say once a week. If you have hour-long sessions once a week, your time of coaching that one person can be as little as about an hour, the session time itself, plus a little prep, plus a little post to maybe type up those session notes. So you can do the math of like how many hours you want to be working, just divide your 40-hour work week, for example, by an hour and 15 minutes, and you come to maybe 35 clients that you're comfortably, is that right? 35, something like that, that you're comfortably coaching because you have time enough, because this is augmenting your brain so you can quickly jump in and be right in their world and be ready to coach them from that. That's sort of a back of the envelope calculation. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. Can you hear me, John? I'm just thinking of something else here too.
Quite well.
I was just thinking that when I started CoachAccountable, which I'm a very loyal follower, as you know, I had just a few to start with, over almost a year and a half ago or whatever. And now, I've managed up to close to 70 people at one time. And I'm starting to feel the more tools you release, the more organized I become. I feel that I'll definitely be on my way to about 200 within about 2 to 3 months. No problem. And it's not stressing me out. Like you said, like 10 minutes beforehand, you put that reminder there. It's it's actually like levers that have made my life. Like now I'm working part-time, and I can do all this part-time to manage 200 people, and it'll be happening. But it's just incredible. I just want to thank you again.
You are so very welcome, my friend. I'm delighted to hear such a success story of all these leverage tools allow you to make the most of your time, make the most of your limited, precious bandwidth of awareness in your clients, and still yet show up, be great with them.
It's almost like you were able to see actually what I was frustrated with and add those features. And that's happened, I think 3 or 4 features you've added exactly when I needed them. Like I was really shocked at this one because it was exactly what I was having a challenge with. So the people who are scaling with their clients, they know how important it is to have just this little lever here and that little lever there. And of course, repetition makes perfect, and practice and so forth. So anyways, thanks again.
Aces, my friend. You're most welcome.
I would love to hear if, I hear something like Ryan growing the business so quickly. If people had, here's the thing that was a game changer for me. I don't know if this is the place or another webinar is, but, You all are amazing. When I hear things like that, I think I could really learn from you. Was there something that was just like learning this one thing was such a game changer for me?
I'll share metrics. Metrics for my corporate clients. Metrics, learn metrics, use metrics if you can. It not only allows you to keep your clients on schedule, it allows you to continually justify the investment they're making in you, as long as they're being successful at achieving their metrics.
Very nice. Thank you, Robert.
John, one more
For me,
thing
it
too.
was-
I heavily leverage worksheets in my coaching, and I find about 5% of them don't like doing them, but the rest do. And so, like, for some of them, I stopped even sending them the worksheets because it was just clogging up their file, their folder, if you will, and they weren't doing them anyways. But most love the worksheets. I was surprised by that. Nice.
Would you share a little bit about what is your worksheet that they loved?
Yeah. So one of my topics is emotional intelligence, and there's a series of mini modules that I've now built in CoachAccountable. I put a short video about the concept I'm going to talk about, and then I put exercises that they can complete. So, for example, we talk about paradigms, and we discuss the 4 paradigms that are in my program. And then there's a worksheet to help them identify how their paradigms are getting in the way of them being successful. And then the next worksheet is this. It's just, that's how I'm doing it. I try to combine them with video, a short video, explanation video, but as if I was talking to them directly, and then give them the worksheet. And when we come into our coaching session, they've already done so much of the work. Now we can focus on the breakthrough.
Yeah, I love that. That's that whole idea of just delivering them. I assume you're doing in more or less automated fashion, mini lessons for them to learn things that are super relevant to what you have to teach. They can do their own work when you're not there, and then you guys can hit the ground running, having a meaningful conversation because they've done that work when you come together.
Yeah, it is really powerful.
Do you deliver them, Robert, on a regular schedule? Like every week they get a new one, or do you deliver them on demand, based on what someone needs? Like, you need this one now, here's this one. How do you find that?
Since I have not built a course yet, typically they're being delivered based on what happens during the session. Sometimes though, when somebody says, like, I have a couple of clients recently that just really wanted this to work on emotional intelligence. So I am sending them sequentially, not automatically. I have to key it up every time because I haven't mastered the courses yet. But oftentimes, Jennifer, I will, when I'm talking to somebody, I will say, oh, you know what? I have a great worksheet for you to work on right now. And I'll send it to them after the session's over, or I'll send it to them while we're in the session. I'll share my screen and go over what the worksheet's about, and then let them take it from there. I'm constantly, I don't have, it's a struggle for time, but I have probably another dozen worksheets I want to create, but just haven't the time to do it. But so far, again, mine are all corporate clients, 100% corporate. Most of them love it.
Right on. Yeah, that to me is that whole pattern of, you've got a dozen more to create, Robert, but you're gradually building up this sort of like shelf of various things, and you can play the doctor like, oh, sounds like you could use this, and right off the shelf, boom, it's ready for you. It's a nice little, again, thing that you can give on demand, is prescribed for the doctor knows best based on what you're dealing with. Brilliant.
I think for me, John, when I started using the actions, because a lot of my clients, they're wanting to have, will you give me a nudge? Will you? And, the whole idea is that, I want to work with them to have their own accountability, because, their job is like with all of us, is to coach us out of a job. So, what I may do is I may set them an action, but work with them and say, it's essentially me, because I'm getting pinged as well, because I have the settings, so that when they're setting an action, I know it's there when it's completed or not done, and they get the late notice that it's not done, because it has sort of my image on it, even though they are then, coaching them to set their own actions in the system. They're involving me in it. And then I get to sort of just jump in with a quick comment, like, thumbs up, that's awesome, along that line. So it really does, they're using the system, to get that accountability, but they're generating it themselves. And because they're involving me in it, there's this sort of full circle closure. So that's been a really helpful piece. And like with Robert, my clients do not like the forms. And so I only end up using two, sort of the pre-session. And then I started using your reflection sheet, just out and out stole it and put it on there and getting some really great results. People really like that, because their thoughts are way out here, and asking them to sort of really dig down to sort of a couple of nuggets that they can kind of go, yeah, that's what that session was about. Because we, with I do ADHD coaching. And so we digress and we move and we shift and trying to bring everybody back into that place. So that reflection piece has just been brilliant with finding out. And it also lets me know, even though there was education involved in there about ADD, they were still able to come back to that place of, yeah, this was the real nugget for me. And then I know what they hung on to at the end of the call. So when we come back again and meet again, we've got that. So it's such a brilliant system. It really is, and I know that we're all sort of cheerleaders for it. So we love to get the word out there, but it just makes life easy. I don't know how I could do without it, quite seriously. So thanks.
Hey,
Bravo.
Just share one more best practice that I've started doing probably about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And that is to comment every time they submit a worksheet. I'll open it up and I'll make a little comment, even if it's as simple as great work or think more about this. I'm finding that interaction using that, I guess you call it a chat tool, a comment tool built into each worksheet is fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Robert, I hope you're just replying to the email notice. You don't even have to log in and do it in app.
Right. I know that's right. Yeah, I am. Sorry.
Good. Well, good. You're using it as design, and Barb, sounds like you're using that beautifully as designed as well. That reflection worksheet, that's totally the point. And I love what you say about clients create their own actions, and they can do that with their own agency and get, build that own muscle of accountability. But what's so great about it, the way you're using it, is you're taking advantage of the fact that you, as their coach, are by default automatically their accountability buddy. The one who's listening for and sees, did you do it, and give them the thumbs up, or hey, the deadline slipped, and you can say, hey, don't forget. That's the whole point, because when another human being cares about what you did, you're not just sort of making promises into an echo and a void where if it slides, nobody cares. Someone cares, and it's you. Congratulations for empowering your clients.
Hey, John, it's Carla, another longtime user and huge fan. Did you say that you can reply in comments right from the email?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
There are many system emails the system will give you, and in sort of faded out text, subtle, because it's a design decision. Someone said, you shouldn't make this so subtle. I didn't know. I'm like, it's a trade-off. But it'll say, reply above this line to comment, to mark it done, to say decline in order to cancel the appointment. Like, there's a couple of little fun things that it does. So keep an eye on the little thing that gives you instructions, so you don't have to.
That's great to know. And I just wanted to add to the conversation that I don't know, I've been using this for a number of years, but I recently just got my worksheets built into courses, and it is saving me so much time and providing a much more consistent experience for my clients. And so, yes, I highly recommend that.
Brilliant. Well done. Yeah, courses can be intimidating, right? But I'm glad you took the plunge, and I'm glad you're finding the payoff.
Well, Roxanne helped me.
John, if I may, I have a question for Robert. I'm struck by Robert's suggestion of rigorously commenting whenever something comes through. That feels absolutely appropriate as a way of giving people a reward. Robert, what's been your experience, if any, of using John's feature of being able to comment on individual components of a worksheet as opposed to a worksheet overall?
I'm not really doing that, Peter, commenting on individual aspects. I think there's only one way to comment at the bottom, right? I think.
Actually,
So
this came out just like 10 days ago. So Peter, your
okay.
question's so unfair.
So my apologies, Robert.
If that feature is there to comment on parts of a worksheet, I'm going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, individual items. So yeah, and now in the email that you get when it says, hey, so-and-so has completed the worksheet, boom, here's the worksheet. Robert, if you feel so inclined, or if any coach ever feels so inclined, there's a link at the bottom. It says one is view this online and the other is comment on answers. If you click the comment on answers, it pops you right in, brings up that worksheet and pops you into comment mode where you can click, hover your mouse over and click on any answer and then just type something that's directly specific to the answer that they put in the worksheet.
Wow. I think it's important that we do this. Otherwise, my concern is that if I'm not doing this, then my clients are going to think that they're doing this work and I'm not looking at it. And why should I even do it?
Right. There's someone there is powerful.
Yeah. So even just to thank you, oh, great work, or look forward to our call, or, even something little simple words like that, they know that I viewed it, read it, and they'll continue doing it.
It's incredibly nourishing to the work that they do. You've hit the head on the nail, Robert.
I am also a rigorous commenter and totally recommend that. And that new feature, John, is amazing that you can comment on the different pieces. I love it.
Awesome. Glad it's a win. Jim.
John, oh, sorry.
Oh, one sec, Barb.
Yeah.
Jim.
Well, first of all, I love the conversation going on. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I did a lot of group coaching prior to the pandemic. Have you had webinars on group coaching, or will you have a webinar on group coaching?
There's a webinar for that. Morgan, I suspect, is gearing up to put in the chat right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
There. Enjoy. I hope it covers all the bases of what you're curious to learn about.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Barb.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I've missed it or if there's a workaround it. And I think maybe Jacqueline or one of the gals mentioned something, but I don't recall it. Is there a way? Because often what I want to do is just pop up on their text versus I know we have the quick option of emailing them. But for some clients, I'd rather go, hey, blah, 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 saw this great quote to flash up. Is there a quick go-to in order to send that? And is there also a quick delay to send to, right? It's kind of like, I want to send this quote, but I want it to arrive Monday morning as they start their week on their text. So instead of reminding me to come back to do it, what's my go-to for that?
So these aren't well supported. So one thing, you can't send arbitrary text messages to people. They're only to do with, notifications that you set through other things. Sorry, not sorry. It's not really meant to be a text platform. Maybe someday.
Okay.
When it comes to delayed messages, I'm so on making that a first-class feature where you can compose a message and then just say send, click a send later and pick a date and time. Maybe I'll add it. If y'all are really keen on it, that will help nudge me that way in a direction. Absent that, though, there is sort of a roundabout workaround to do any sort of scheduling of anything, and that is a course that is day-based and time-based. So what you can do, and this is a technique that I went to in the courses webinar, you can create a generic, say 180 or 365-day course that has nothing in it, and it's just for scheduled deliveries of future things. And what you do is you create that course as sort of a empty shell. And then you add any given client that you want to do scheduled stuff with to it. And you make a spin-off version just for that person. Then anytime you want to schedule something, you just add something a little further on the timeline. Maybe they're on day 22 of the timeline and you want to send it next Monday. You just drag a worksheet item or a message item onto day 26. The system will tell you how the days map out into the calendar. And you just type it up and say, I want this to be sent at 8:42 a.m. It'll do it. It'll general purpose, scheduling out anything. It's not as elegant as if there was an actual, compose a message and then hit delay, because it's a little clunky. But if you get into the muscle memory of doing that, you can schedule whatever you like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome.
I've used that delay message a lot too, because I work with people across time zones, and what makes sense to me doing something at 4 p.m. might be 8 p.m. in their time zone, or, early in the morning might be 3 a.m. So it doesn't always make sense when I'm doing it. So I'd use that delay option if you had it.
Right on.